Need to let them in.
It looks like people are arriving, so we'll give it a few minutes before we jump right in. While you're waiting, if you don't mind, maybe in the chat, put where you're from. That would be interesting to know. I will put in there that I am from Louisville, Kentucky, the home of the Kentucky Derby. I always hope people know that whenever I say that. Oh, Denver, Colorado. I am jealous. I would love to be there right now. Beautiful. Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis is wonderful.
The
Please don't
home of
play.
Elvis.
Love the comment, Steve. Boca Raton, Florida. Well, it's warm there. It's cold here. So instead of talking about my weather, we're going to jump right in. So welcome, everyone. We're diving into a world where AI is not just a buzzword anymore, right? We're being asked to use it more and more. And sometimes we're like, gosh, how do we use it? And how can we work smarter, lead better, and deliver faster, right? So luckily, I'm here with my partner, Doug. We are two of the certified trainers for AI Native, and we want to give you just a quick little introduction to AI Native. We're super excited about these courses. It was funny. We actually had to take the classes ourselves and kind of go through it. And it was exciting, actually. We both walked out of there pretty energized. Both of us have been through some of the technical pieces of it. And so just want to give you a quick overview. So when you're talking about AI native foundations, my goodness, I'm all over the board. Foundations, it's a 2-day course. And what do you do in this 2 days? If I had to simmer it down and not talk too much, because I'm not going to, this is your time and we're going to use lean coffee, I would tell you that in those 2 days, what you find out is you start to figure out how to be AI native. What does that mean? That means thinking about using AI right at the beginning. You're not waiting till the end, right? And a lot of my students have left and they said, gosh, I found 3 different times, 5 different times last week that I could use AI that I would have never thought of before. So we definitely focus a lot on the mindset, but we also do some really cool things. By the end of the first day, you'll be creating your own agent. You can read this and we can share this presentation if you want, and it's out there on SAI's website as well. So who's it for? I like to say that it's for anybody, and I know somebody's already posed that question, so we'll dive deeper into that during our Q&A. Day 1 and day 2, the syllabus, it is jam-packed. And so we just gave this in Atlanta and Chicago just in the past week. And both of those are very full days, but very rewarding. Change agent. This one is a game changer, right? So this is for the people who are going to go in and they're actually applying it. And Doug, you can add anything if you want to, but we're teaching you how to go in and make sure that your AI project does not go into the POC graveyard, right? That's the number one place that it goes. There's tons of different studies and reports that say everything fails. Anywhere between 80% to 95% of all of the AI initiatives fail. How do we prevent that from happening? So this is for the people who will be serving as those change agents or maybe moving a project or initiative along using AI. You do have to take foundations to get into change agent, but this is really neat. It gives you a different perspective. Do you want to add something, Doug?
No, just to capitalize on that, like if you want to be seen as a thought leader in terms of AI in your organization, this would be the class, right? The change agent class is for those people that are going to be pushing AI forward throughout their organization, starting with, whatever proof of concept or pilot project, and how we can take that pilot project and make sure that it generates the ROI that builds momentum and puts you on a pedestal for a successful AI initiative.
Yeah, that's great. I think you're translating technical brilliance kind of into execution,
Yep.
right? Because AI gives you so many things at your fingertips and there's so many possibilities, but how do you translate that? And you are going to be the translator. So this one is a 3-day jam-packed agenda as well. So we encourage you to look into it if you are if you think that you kind of fit that definition. So super excited. So coming up, I didn't update all of these dates. So Doug's going to help me out. We've already had the Atlanta, we've had the Chicago. Doug is headed to Raleigh, North Carolina, at the beginning of December. And Doug, I think you're actually teaching one of these, a change agent coming up. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
change agent November 23rd, 24th, 25th in St. Louis. So,
Right.
and we'll put that information on the Lean Coffee board a little bit later,
Yeah.
just so you have that information as well as a link to register if you so choose. But again, the change agent, if you're going to go through AI native foundations before November 23rd and want to then proceed into change agent, that would be an opportunity for you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we have a couple of other ones that are being discussed, and we're starting to lay out maybe one in California in January and various other locations from January through March. So if you're interested, then reach out to Beth or anybody at Icon and let them know that you're interested in one in that area. If we can get enough interest, then we'll set it up. Super exciting. I love it. But let's jump right in. This is your time. Hopefully, that wasn't too much time just to kind of introduce what we are going to talk about. And Doug's going to take it away and take us to the fun part.
All right, the rest of this meeting is all yours. Beth, I don't know if you could drop the board guest link one more time into the chat just so people can join me here. The rest of this meeting, the remaining 50 plus minutes that we have, it's all about you. If you've never been part of a Lean Coffee, you set the agenda. So we're going to take a few minutes here, probably 3 to 5 minutes. Some topics have been submitted beforehand to discuss. Some topics have been submitted. So if you have a topic, if you have a question based on what is this AI native foundations, how can I use this in my work, etc., etc., all you have to do, join us at this link. I see some people joining us already. And just in the add a new topic, just type in your topic. Give us as much context as possible, right? Don't just give me 2, 3 words because that's going to be hard to then distill, but write out a sentence, what your question is. And after a few minutes here, again, I'll be quiet to give you some silent writing time to digest these. And then we'll vote. And based on the topics that have the most votes is in the time remaining, we're going to spend, 7 to 10 minutes on each topic or less if we've exhausted that topic. You get to decide whether or not we continue to speak on that topic. Karen and I will do our best to answer your question, and then you control the rest of the agenda. So this is active participation, not just sitting and listening. So I would encourage you, if you're multitasking, to stop and join us and be a participant in this meeting. This isn't a cavalier listen. This is a engage. So
I only got a short time to go through all those PowerPoint presentation through the
yeah.
PowerPoint presentation just to give you that time back. And I know he said, I'll be quiet and let you absorb. I do want to say something. These classes have been hosted worldwide right now, and we are seeing the same level of feedback from every one of them, which has been very good, very positive. I know Icon has some videos posted out there. Doug happened to have two of my clients in his class last week, and they have ranted and raved about him and about the course. And so, super excited. Wanted to let you all know this isn't something that we're coming out to sell, that is not out there and that isn't taking off. It's really a great opportunity. I'm a technologist. I was a COBOL developer. I've had a lot of the technology courses, and so I learned a lot about tools. But I think I've learned the most from this approach.
Yeah, likewise, I've been to so many different prompting classes and AI strategy classes and MIT. I did the 8-week MIT, and just when the 2 days from this, it's eye-opening. So um,
Awesome.
and to be able to teach it and see the wow moments that people have, the aha moments, it's incredible.
It
You know,
is.
even people that have been to prompting classes and go, I didn't learn half of what I learned in this class, in those prompting classes. So we're going to give it another minute or two here, and then I'm going to ask you all to vote. We could probably collect topics all day, but um, at this point, if you don't have a topic to add, feel free to go ahead and vote. All you have to do is click on the vote, the little word vote under a card that says, ooh, I'd like to, that's hot on my mind too. You got 3 votes. You can put them all on one card. You can spread them around. It's completely up to you. There are no rules other than you get 3 votes. And then when we start the discussion here in just a couple of minutes, giving people time to vote, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, about 15 people. So most of our attendees are on. We've got 34 participants on the call. So if you're not on the Lean Coffee Board, I don't know why, but hey, come join us and vote because you get to drive the agenda. Yeah, I think for time, I'm probably not going to group them because that affinity grouping typically takes some time. But I see that question in the chat. Um, we're trying to give as much
Lots of
time and
questions.
attention to, huh? What was that?
I said there's lots of questions.
Yeah,
So definitely we'll have to stick to
yeah.
our time box.
Yeah, I want to maximize the time speaking to questions than organizing and affinity grouping and as- so I'm going to go for 2 more minutes to vote because it looks like there's still a lot of available votes out there. So again, please join the board to at least cast your vote for what you want to talk about. What you want us to address. I'm carefully watching the clock and also watching how many people have votes remaining. Should just be able to click on the word vote to vote. I haven't disabled voting for anyone, so, and it's allowing anonymous participation. So try to refresh. Yep. Click on the little word vote. Right, giving it 1 more minute. And we'll have 45 minutes to process your questions. Looks like there's still a few outstanding votes. Again, just a few more seconds.
I think we're going to give Doug a job at the polling stations.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click on start the discussion. It's going to sort these for us? And the very first topic up for discussion, and I'm going to give it 5 minutes to start that topic. And the first question is, why scaled Agile for AI training? That's actually an excellent question, is what makes scaled Agile, knowledge base or, a catalyst for AI training. And I'll just say this is AI, the whole AI native group, it is a completely separate group. It's a completely separate line of business, completely different people, different everything around. It's a whole nother organization. If you think of it as, say, Scaled Agile has always had SAFe as their portfolio. Now their portfolio includes a completely new product, which is the whole AI native, right? The whole AI native is, again, it's a completely different team, new expertise have brought in. They have acquired companies like to actually bring in the expertise for this, to create this essentially new spin-off, right? So if you're a company, SAFe has pretty much matured in terms of what they're going to do with it. If you heard the last summit stuff, is SAFe 6.0 is pretty much where we're at that maturity phase. There are going to be enhancements, but it's not major releases any longer. So, but they have an incredible foundation of training, right? So training is one of the backbones of Scaled Agile. So all of the tools that they have built for training, for testing, conducting exams, creating the online forums, all of that work they can capitalize on. So that's why it's brought here. So completely different organization, but capitalizing on all the infrastructure that Scaled Agile has built to do training, to do, communities, the whole safe communities, all of that. So I don't know, Karen, did you want to add anything to that?
I think my big answer is community. Because AI, when you go to AI native, you're done. Right. Or when you go to AI training somewhere else, you're done. I go in, I receive my technology training and technical training and that's kind of it. I think that AI native and Scaled Agile, they continue the conversation, right? So they're developing a community that everybody will be a part of if they attend these courses. And I think that's important, right? Because why? Because what we talk about today is going to be very different than what we talk about 6 months from now. So that's what I like about it. I think that that's the difference. Also, we focus more on the mindset. So I've received this feedback from a lot of people in my course was I didn't focus as much on changing my mindset before. I thought about the tools and what the tools can do. When we think about the tools, we get projects. When we start to think about the mindset, we get transformation.
It seems like every certification providing org has some AI certification aspects. As they introduce their micro-credentials too quickly, the AI space is changing so quickly. Is this going to be a pay every time there's an update situation to stay current? Actually, um, just like anything to maintain a certification, you've got to do something to maintain a certification. Just like your safe certs, right? You have to, continue your education. However, as these materials change, you are going to, you come out of AI native foundations and you're going to get a toolkit. That toolkit, as they update that toolkit, you will always have access, as long as you have a credential, active credential, always have access to the latest tooling, the latest work in the community that is produced by this AI native group. So I can tell you just in the last 2 weeks, we've seen changes and new things come out. As people conduct these classes and they learn new things and new things happen in the AI space, they're actively updating these materials for you. And the community is constantly adding new things into the community. So again, I'd like to remember it's a different line of business. So in the AI natives class, there's not a single slide that mentions safe, right? There just isn't. It's a completely different line of business. So again, why scaled agile? It's really for the community, for the infrastructure, right? People that have already been through transformations and know the transformative power of technology. Safe went through the whole cloud transition. SAFe has gone through all sorts of transitions that have happened in technology since 2011 and updated and kept fresh, right? The whole lean UX movement, all of these different movements, Scaled Agile has been a part of and seen. So this is your time to participate again. If you want to continue on this, extend the topic, no preference in the topic, um, this is your opportunity to
While
see
you
where we're
are
headed.
voting, I will tell you too that they did acquire a company, four brilliant people that brought I guess, this content to them. And so very developer mindset because I get that challenge quite a bit. So just wanted to share that with you. And you get to know them even more in the training.
Awesome. All right. What is the biggest challenge organizations face when starting their AI native journey? You want to kick us off, Karen?
Sure, sure, I can. If I had to say what is the biggest, so to me, that's one. So the biggest one is governance. And the reason why I say that is because most organizations are afraid. So in my opinion, that it's scary. It's scary for everybody, right? So they might resort to control versus governance. And there is a difference between the two. And I would say that that's probably where they struggle because they lock it down so much that possibly you cannot get the benefits. Or they direct it to one single team. And now you have a team that's doing AI versus everybody doing AI. So if I had to pick one, that would be the biggest challenge that I see personally. Doug, what about you?
Yeah, and I'd lean on what you just said there is that whole centralizing, the AI, you know, gurus for lack of, centralizing the AI guru or the AI organization, it's all over there in the AI Center of Excellence, right? That AI group is doing that. It's not about me or doing things for me, but they're doing stuff over there. It's not something for me. Whereas the whole AI native is about AI is for everyone in your organization. How does everyone in your organization treat AI as a new thinking partner, as a new assistant, as a way to free them up from the mundane things or the routine things to really practice those things that require human critical thinking? That's what it is for me. It's like they try to centralize everything and they try to, put all of it in this little group. And that's not what this is. I mean, AI is something, it's another tool that should be in everyone's tool chest, just like a hammer or a screwdriver. Everyone should have access to this tool and be ready to use it just as easily as you open up Outlook every day or whatever email platform you choose.
Mhm.
Open AI, right? AI is, I can tell you, I have two or three AI engines open on my screen right now, right? So it's like instantly when I come in the morning, as readily as opening my email, I have AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. I've got a browser that is AI-based browser, right? That is, I don't Google anything anymore, right? When's the last time I said, hey, go Google that? I don't, right? It's like I go out there and I build agents for things. It's like, how can an agent do this for me? Right? I get however many emails a day. Synthesize my emails for me. What are the three things I should be focusing on right away? Help me build my to-do list for today. It's all these things. It's becoming AI native. So it's like the biggest challenges are centralizing it, to Karen's point, control, that over governance. I've got stories about even my own wife got, we were able to use AI to do some work and they freaked out. Oh my gosh, AI did in 2 hours what typically people take 2 weeks to do. What are we going to do? We got to
But
turn it off, right? So it's like, no, you got to capitalize on that. So free her up to do other work that requires human interaction, human involvement, critical thinking, right? To
So,
where,
Doug, that actually leads me to another thing. So, if I had to pick my second biggest, right, because I feel like I was, pick the first, I think that cybersecurity is going to be one of the biggest challenges because before they could send us our phishing emails, we would fail and we'd be like, oh, darn, right? But now what we're seeing, so actually the week before I gave a class, I get a call from a past client who's a QSR client. They had somebody who called one of the stores and said, take the money and do the drop yourself. Usually the manager would come in and do the drop the next morning. So it was their voice that employees like, I know this person. They take the money out into the parking lot, put it into their car, and they're going to drive out and do the drop. Somebody stops them and takes the money. So AI can also mask voices, right? It can communicate. It can kind of, I guess, portray itself as somebody. So I do think cybersecurity is going to be another big challenge. So how do you teach people that? Because just the phishing email alone was a little bit scary, right? And now when you look at AI, you have to realize that we've introduced new mechanisms to get through the system there. So I like to share that quick example, just so then you know that, hey, it's okay. They're afraid for a reason.
All
So.
right. Your opportunity to say move on, or let's talk about some additional barriers to AI adoption. Looks like we're trending towards end. All right, let's go ahead and wrap that one up. Thank you, Karen. All right. How does the AI native training program compare to other training programs you could invest in, like Google, OpenAI, MIT, etc.? Um, there's nothing wrong with those classes. I can tell you at MIT, I learned a lot about prompting, but this is not a prompting class, right? This class really, there's prerequisites to coming into this class. Most students are saying 45 minutes to an hour and a half of prerequisites, but you're actually going to be really putting it into your context. That's one of the really cool things about this class is you bring a workflow that we're going to help you use AI to find places in that workflow, a real workflow that you use, and find ways, concrete ways to actually use AI to automate parts of that workflow, as well as develop a proposal to take to someone and how you could then justify automating that particular area. It's also going to give you are going to build your own personal roadmap to becoming AI native, things that you can actually do and little small steps help you build milestones. And you're actually going to build an agent. That's one of the coolest things people do, right? Is you are really going to build an agent. Actually, something that you can share with friends and family. We had somebody build one earlier this week when I was in Chicago and shared it out. And instantly live in class, we were getting feedback from people that she shared with us going, oh, this is really neat. This is really cool. Right. And they built that, right? And you get a chance to actually put something in the wild, right? To actually say, I used AI to build, whatever it is you're going to build, right? We have an example, but some people actually went and did their own thing. So all this kind of stuff, and it's really it's going just beyond a prompting class or what are the different flavors of the day in terms of AI or acronym soup, right? All of that. It's really helping you put it into application and how you actually use it. So that's my pitch, my 2-minute pitch. Karen, do you want to share anything from your training insights?
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think it's the difference in technology training and then mindset training. And so
Mhm.
I believe that that the AI native training really is the mindset portion of it. You get to kind of dip your toes into that technology and dip it pretty well. I mean, I've got so much feedback from my students. Hey, this is what I've left, and this is what I've been able to do with it. There's actually somebody who's developing an app and integrating it in. So it's pretty powerful from learning the technology in a very simplistic way, something that's not too intimidating, right? But I think that the biggest thing is they focus on the mindset. And none of those trainings that I went to talked about the mindset. What it did give me is some technology chops, right, around that, and to be able to recognize and to interact and everything. So I think that the combination of both is very empowering. I see a lot of people that are afraid of AI. They say, Karen, is AI going to replace my job? And I'm like, no, but you might want it to be your teammate, right? To help you move forward. Or if it does, then maybe it's the part of the job that you didn't want to do anyway, right? It frees you up to do something bigger or better. So I suggest that people get to know it, that they understand it, they see the possibilities. But the biggest thing is the mindset piece, and not just for your, we keep talking about work here. I just want to say too, use it at home. I mean, one of the biggest places that this helps me is in my personal life as well. So I think that it's more about that portion. So good.
Yeah.
I know we still have 55 seconds
That's
left.
all right.
I don't
I
think.
wonder if I can.
Yeah, so I would say that that's the biggest change. From that, I would encourage you to take that, um, to take some other courses. It's going to, make you better from a technology perspective. Very few of them are going to change your mindset.
And Claire, who was in class earlier this week, dropped some comments in here, which is awesome. I mean, she was one who shared the agent, and then Drew Carroll, the person in class, the in-person class helps lower barriers. We worked together and talked about questions we had. Yeah, that's another thing is it is in person, right? It is not a remote class. It's in person, and that is because of the power of sharing with people and building things together and bouncing ideas off of each other. Very visceral in that regard. So I think we're going to go ahead and finish this topic. How does this integrate with role-based scaled agile courses, and why is it a great complement for roles like APM or POPM? It's a great question because one of the benefits of, again, AI native is a separate line of business, but taking advantage of all those amazing, brilliant people, they are now going back and augmenting these safe courses. All of them, there is a whole roadmap for augmenting all of the safe courses from Scrum Master to POPM to make them more AI based. So there are AI skills embedded into those classes and will be. I mean, that's the next wave of for what's happening on the scaled agile side. The training courses are going to be integrating AI. So things that we're learning from AI native are going to start to build new exercises and new things in those classes. But it's based on the premise that you are embracing AI. You do have that mindset. We're trying to really focus on that. And you can already go out there if you have a credential, a valid credential, you can go out there now, and there are videos available right now that are about an hour to actually how do I use AI as a Scrum Master? How do I use AI as a product owner, as a PM, as an architect? Right? Those are out there, so they're trying to build those skills up, but those are separate. Those are very specific to a role. Whereas AI native is all about, it doesn't matter what your role. You could be a legal person, you could be a HR person, you could be someone from sales and marketing. You're going to learn how to embed AI into your everyday in whatever your role is. That was one of the beauties of this course is it's not role specific, it's role agnostic. So it's how do you embrace it? Goes back to what Karen said about the mindset. So um,
Yeah, I think, and so I agree. So I'm going to say yes. And so Doug was actually one of the people that saw this earlier on. So I can remember Doug, it's probably been well over a year ago. We're talking and everybody's talking about prompt engineering and prompt engineering being a role. We're going to hire all these prompt engineers, right, that are going to support the companies as they move forward in AI. And what we found out is everybody needs to be a prompt engineer, right? And we need to understand how to apply AI within each one of our specific roles. So over a year ago, Doug and I are talking, we're like, hey, we need to do this role specific kind of training. SAI, right in line with that, right? And so when you take that training, then what do? You walk out that day with things that you can use specific to that role the next day. And that's really important, right? So, how do I integrate this into my day to day job? So, with AI native, it's about being native. How did I think? First thing, I want to use AI, or how can I use AI to help this problem? So, love both of them and think that they really kind of play off of each other. But with the safe courses, Very much so. If I take the POPM, I'm going to walk out of there that day, and the next day I'm using that in my role in ways that have already been proven. And I think that that's really extremely valuable. With AI native, what we're hearing is, hey, I left and things I never thought that I would use AI for, I'm realizing I have the opportunity to. So. I keep stopping early. I like to talk fast, obviously. Talk fast and talk short, and hopefully deliver the biggest bang for the buck there. But I know that, Shari, I think that you put something out there that, yes, that they're really great. Go check them out, right? So I would say that remember that these are two separate things. So when you talk about AI, everybody's going to use AI. And and then there's a smaller group of people who are using safe. And so two different perspectives as well.
Yeah, the micro credentials do still add value to specific roles.
Some more so specific.
Yeah. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and make an executive call and move that one over because there's some other juicy topics here.
If
What
you give me
security measure?
five.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I actually go to 4 minutes. What security measures can be taken to make sure that IP knowledge does not get out? Um, that's governance. It does go back to governance. And what are your policies and procedures internally around responsible use of AI? And that's definitely one. And the other is you, right? So it's as people, just like you wouldn't share corporate information in an email to an outsider, like when you are writing prompts or you're using an LLM or you're writing an agent, you want to make sure that you don't include PII, PHI, you mask critical client information, right? You can do all these things. You can write one heck of a prompt just with using generic terms, right? Subbing a client's name for X, Y, and Z, or using fictitious things, masking different things, right? And just augmenting your prompt so that it doesn't include that kind of information and get just as valuable results. Right. So, I mean, like I'll do that as well. Like, I'm having this situation, and this just happens to be a fintech company. I'm having this situation with a fintech company with these kinds of things. I'm not giving out any client specific, data. I'm not giving away any trade secrets. I'm not, giving the Colonel Sanders secret recipe. I'm not doing any of that. Right. So it's like, but I can still effectively get some help. Help me as a thinking partner. Help me navigate through this. What are some powerful questions I might ask? I can do all those kinds of things without ever revealing any security data. And that's really incumbent upon the people using it as well. And you can do other things too. You can build on-prem LLMs, right, to where nothing ever goes out. I mean, I have a copy, full copy on my laptop of an LLM. So I can use it just right there. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays right on my computer. It doesn't go anywhere. I've basically taken a large language model and put it right on my computer. So I can even work offline, right? I can use AI offline. I don't even have to be connected to the internet, and it's all just stays right there. Uh,
Yeah. The bad thing is there's no technology solution that
nope.
says we're going to protect it, right? No matter what we do, it really takes training and knowledge and communication, right? So we have that human factor now that is, inside of this very huge technology gap, right? So as Doug said, if you put something in there, it's now escaped. So how do you go through that? And the human factor adds a lot of volatility to it. And so the training, the understanding, what you do to say, hey, this data is protected, that makes somebody stop and think before they actually put it out there. Most companies react, and so Doug, you alluded to this on building their own internal LLM, but then that starts to restrict some of the benefits that you can get from it, right? So that's the natural reaction: is we're going to restrict it, we're going to lock it down, and then you're missing some of those benefits. So I think that there has to be kind of a middle of the road answer there eventually, because that's what I'm seeing across the board. People just want to lock it down. I'm now not able to access a lot of the benefits. But again, it's the humans, right? That open up those possibilities for things to get out. And as far as I know, that there is not any technology solution yet that can catch it and say, oh, nope, Doug, don't do that. Don't send that out, right? Don't put that in your prompt.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the security measures become the humans again and become much more complex.
Out.
Yeah, COPs. I've seen a couple of companies kick off COPs within their company, saying, "Hey, if you are going to use AI, then you need to take these trainings, and then you need to attend." I know that a COP is supposed to be voluntary, but they both said, "Hey, and then you attend this, and then you get access to it. We do not grant you access if not." So that's an option, but it's also very indicative of control a little bit as well. But it's what they put in place to make sure that they can make sure the people are educated that are using it and not letting things go out. Just to give you a
All
small.
right. Let's check in the chat to see if anybody has anything specific on this one. Looks like we want to vote. Trending towards end topic. All right.
If
Write
somebody can
that down.
develop that, then I bet you there's a big market for it.
$1 million market.
Yeah.
Uh, how technical do I need to be successful? I should have made this 1 minute because you don't have to be technical at all.
All
Yeah.
at all.
I mean, we had people in class from, that it was their very first time using this to people that were high tech, high speed, low drag with technology. So you don't have to be technical at all. We will literally walk you through everything. The hardest thing you have to do is go register an account on a couple of sites. If you've never done that, it's 2025. I'm sure you have all registered for whether that be, Pinterest or Facebook or Instagram or anything that you've had to go register and create a free account somewhere. That's as technically savvy as you have to be, is to be able to go register for an account on a couple of things. And, if you choose to use a free version of an LLM like ChatGPT, that still works in class. Or if you want to get more out of it, you can do a paid version. So if you've ever paid for anything online, again, that's about as technical as you need to be in order to use this class. And you'll get stuff out of it no matter what, right? And we will walk you through. I mean, all of the exercises are guided. We even provide the prompts for you. So, and then you can tailor them how you want, but it is like copy and paste prompts. It's, all kinds of things that are there to just, if you can copy and paste and create an online account somewhere, you're good to go. I don't know if there's anything more to say other than not at all, right?
Yeah.
Not
I can't add anything
technical.
to it. You're right. There,
Yeah.
you don't have to be technical at all.
All right. I
Great.
think we're gonna say that one is answered. I don't know that I could go anymore. So, and this is another short one. Who should take AI native foundations? Executives, leaders, practitioners, other? Easier answer there is everyone. Right? Everyone, anyone can benefit. Benefit regardless of role, position, right?
Yeah.
Authority. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And so we have, so the difference, we have two different courses here. We have a private and we have a public, same kind of context, but within the private ones, then we can incorporate some things that are more specific to the company. If you were to ask me, what is the benefit of foundations and what is the benefit of putting everyone through there? As Doug's already answered, everybody can take it. It's because it baselines. It gives them a vernacular and a conversation that they can have across the board, right? So that's the benefit. So everybody should take it. So then we're all speaking the same language as this starts to move forward. Remember, in an AI native organization, everybody is AI fluent, not just one team or someone there. So I think that that's important. So I think everybody, and that's what we're seeing, is everybody should take it.
All right, let's go ahead and say that one's answered. Ooh, this one looks a little bit meatier. How can organizations that want to adopt AI but aren't sure where to start or how to integrate it leverage Scaled Agile's AI Native Foundations course, and why is this course a valuable step in their transformation journey? We've covered a lot of that. But again, it's building that fluency. I mean, that was a great word Karen used there. It's really building the fluency that everyone then shares. So like whether you're the, director of IT or you're a brand new analyst somewhere or you're a PO or again a legal counsel, right? It baselines everyone in terms of what is this whole space, demystifying the whole space of what is this AI when someone's dropping these acronyms. What does it really mean? What really happens when I enter a prompt into ChatGPT? What really happens, right? In a very approachable, non-technical, business speak, easy speak kind of way. So that's the really thing is it really walks you through what's really happening, front end, back end, what's all happening. And it really lets people, and I think it does break down some of that fear as well, going, this isn't taking over the world. It's not, the three rules in iRobot. It's not Terminator, right? It's helping people understand that here's how to embrace it. Here's what's really happening. One of the first things we say is, look, AI is predictive, but not deterministic. All it's doing is it's taking all this information that it's got. It's basically distilling, in many cases, the entire internet, right? Trillions of documents it's able to do now. And it tries to predict, based on all these other things, I think the best logical course of action or the best answer is this. Is it always going to be right? No, because it can't determine your specific context, your specific situation. It can't do that. It's like it leaves it up to you going, hey, this is an approach, but you still have to be the human in the middle to say, does that response make sense in my context? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. That's how
Mhm.
you can identify some things like hallucinations. Is this, that doesn't sound right at all in my situation. That seems like it would just be a disaster here. Well, that's up to you. So,
So
uh,
Doug, too, I just want to point out, I know I went over those slides really quickly because I was trying to be respectful of the people's time on here and let them be in control of it. But on day two, we actually, we worked through a workflow. And what I heard some feedback is people didn't realize, oh, AI could help there, right? So as we started brainstorming and sharing, and as the team started talking about where some of those challenges were and everything, they were like, oh, I didn't even think about that, right? About it solving something there. So when I read this question, how can organizations that want to adopt AI but aren't sure where to start, how can they leverage Scaled Agile's AI native foundations? I think it's an aha moment when you go through that workflow process on day two as well, that there are so many opportunities usually within your workflow that you could use AI, right? Where it would benefit you. And so I think that is something that you could use AI foundations for if you were just even exploring it. I would encourage you to either attend a public class and find out, or schedule a private class where your entire, where you have an entire group from your company there that's going through some things and you're getting some really great ideas on the impact it could make within your organization. What's next?
do we actually build an AI agent in the training? If so, is there a consistent stack used or can we bring our own technology? Yes, we do actually build an agent. Yes, we actually have a technology stack that we encourage in this, and it's part of the prerequisites. But if you are already familiar, if you're somebody that is familiar with other tools, I would love that in class, right? I haven't had a student yet that has built agents um, in their own tool set, but if they have, I would encourage them to do that and then share that experience, right? If we actually, our stack is we use a tool called Flowwise, and then we use Grok to actually generate the APIs because you need an API into an actual LLM. So that's really the only thing we use Grok for is to generate an API that allows your agent to call uh, an actual large language model,
Yeah, and
such
both
as,
were and
go
both were
ahead.
selected too because of their simplicity, right?
Yep.
So again, this is foundations. We say this is for anyone. So whether you are really advanced or if you're just now entering the field, then we wanted to make sure and not overwhelm. So some of the other tools are a little bit more complex. So I think that they were intentionally selected for that simplistic, right? If I get discouraged by the technology or I feel intimidated by it, I may not, proceed forward. And so we really wanted to give the experience of you can do this and look how powerful it is. And you just did it all by yourself, right? Versus introducing some of those more complex tools. But absolutely, I would welcome it. We actually had some peers when we were going through it that were using different tools, and it does make it more exciting. So I think that you could use your own. It's just that those people who are entry level, we recommend those two tools. Is that fair, Doug?
Yep, that is for APIs. Yep. Yeah, when we actually took the class, I mean, again, we had people in class who were actually in their getting
PhDs.
their doctorate of AI, and so they had way more tools. And I mean, so they actually used those, but used the exact same scenario, but used their tools, and then showed what those could do and how they're different. So that's also an advantage. If you had someone in the class, I would encourage them to do that and then share, right? So. Um, you actually do build an agent. There is a consistent stack that is part of the training, but like anything, just like when we suggest prompts in the class, you don't have to use verbatim those prompts. You can contextualize those however you want. They are a starting point for you so that you aren't, starting from scratch, right? We don't want people to start from scratch and scratch their head and go, oh, where am I? What am I doing? We're providing them some context, some things to start, but you can take this as far as you want to take it, um, particularly for those people that are already really comfortable. I mean, they're going to actually be able to it's a play opportunity for them. It's a sandbox for them to now say, how could I take this even further? Right. And we give them some guidance in that as well. So how can you take this even further? So, and that's one of the reasons why those of us that are trainers in this is, we have already embraced this, right? We've already got the tattoos that say I am AI native, right? We got the stickers on our laptops. We wear the pin. So that's the idea is we can help you actually take these things even beyond what is just in the class notes, right? So
I just want to clarify, we will not be giving you tattoos when you leave the
yeah,
class.
no.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, just being silly.
I know, I'm just teasing.
All right, we got a few more minutes. Let's just do a rapid fire, a couple minutes on each of these. Are there bad prompts? In other words, the way they are written typically generates hallucinations. There are bad prompts, right? You know, I always say it goes back to context. You need to be able to give your prompts. And we actually go through a whole, there's several slides in some great prompting techniques as how to write better prompts. And we also give you all the sample prompts that are well-written prompts. You have models from which to go by. But oh yeah, you mean the more vague you are, the more vague response you get. Data is such a big thing. It's the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. It's that adage still applies. Again, it's just ones and zeros at the back end. Remember that. It's still a machine that is providing this answer. So, the more vague you are, yeah, I just can't say it any other way. You know, if the more context you can give a prompt, like act as this kind of role, or behave like this, or you can even ask a prompt to cite the sources, right? So that you can actually prevent hallucinations. You can ask
Mm.
it to be more clear, more concise. You can ask it, you can train, you can actually train if you have a pro version of these things. Like I have a pro version of a couple of them, and I have trained it, I've provided to it, here's my writing style. Here's the type of things to do. My personality. Here are my standard thinking hats, the things I go to. You know, here's my personality profile, right? So all of these different things, you can actually help train it to, you know, guide those answers, less hallucinations from that. So, I mean, that's the whole idea.
That
You,
scares me, an AI with Douglas's personality
uh,
associated. Yeah. So the more detailed that you are, right, the less hallucinations. Also, how you start out. Be careful because if you ask it something that it doesn't know, sometimes it's going
yep.
to try to answer you and make it up. So,
Yeah, that's the big thing is I always say if ChatGPT doesn't know the answer, it will make it up. So
mm.
I
It
got
doesn't
dogs
like to
going
say
crazy.
I don't know. So always ask for that proof. I do.
Wouldn't you know it? I get an Amazon delivery and my dogs go nuts. Is there an effective way to use AI to check itself for hallucinations? I always ask if I'm worried about hallucinations, cite your sources. Right? Ask in your prompt, cite your sources. Where did you get this information? So I can then go check it. Um, that's Perplexity is great about it. Perplexity is one of those AIs it will cite its sources automatically. It will provide you where I got this information to prevent hallucinations. So
Well,
if it, go ahead.
sorry, Doug. I just want to reinforce something. This is the reason why there has to be a human in the loop too. Those SMEs can look at that and say, is that valid? Is that not? So never take anything verbatim. There always has to be a human in the loop for, I would say, 98% of what AI is doing. So that human in the loop is so important. And there are some tools, by the way, that you can use even from a corporate perspective or from an individual perspective in some cases. So.
Let's see, we got a couple more minutes. We're going through the rapid fire. How can I be smart in securing my data as I explore all things AI? Again, don't put PII, PHI, don't put sensitive company information in your prompts, period. Right? That is where I would start. That would be my first thing is don't do that, right? You don't even be tempted to do that. Slap your own hand. Don't do that. Don't put that data in there. Um, and ultimately, depending upon how sensitive your company is even though it might reduce some of your effective output, you may want to bring some things in-house, do things just locally. But again, it's what is your risk sensitivity, risk tolerance? How sensitive is your data? How top security is it? Karen, any thoughts?
No,
It's the
I think
human.
that yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
the
mean,
human again that seems to be uncontrollable.
I
So,
mean, securing your data as you explore new things. I mean, a lot of it is don't put that data in your prompts, right? Don't share it out there, right? Don't put it out in the public ether. If it could, it's just like anything. I think we've all taken those classes. Like every year, it seems we have to refresh those little data security classes. Most enterprises I'm in, even as a consultant, right? I still have to take those classes too. Here's how you protect our data. Here's who to call if you see a data breach. All those different classes, the same is true, right? Just like you wouldn't leave something on a printer that has high sensitive information out there in the public, right? You wouldn't do that with a prompt either. So it's as humans, we have to be sensitive to that. I think we're at time. So I don't want to start another one here with just a minute left. Hopefully, you've got something out of this and seen the benefits. We've shared our experiences. I highly encourage you to take this back to your organizations. Embrace this idea. If you're new or even already on the AI journey, you are going to find benefit in this class. So
absolutely. Thank you very much.
and that's
Hopefully
all
you
we've
can see the
got.
passion. Yeah, the passion behind it. It's a great course. I would encourage anybody to take it. It's life-changing personally and from a business perspective. So,
But with that, we're going to end this so that you can get to whatever you have next, whether that's lunch or another meeting, or enjoy your weekend, everyone. And I'm going to stop sharing and bid you all a wonderful day.
yeah, thank you.